Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at another new Ultra Beast released in the world of Pokemon Go, and that is NAGANADEL. NAGANADEL evolves from Poipole, and to evolve it, you're going to need to put it as your buddy and catch 20 Dragon-type Pokemon. Dragon types were not particularly common in the wild, so it basically took me all day to get the 20 Dragon types that were needed, but afterwards I was able to evolve it into NAGANADEL. NAGANADEL has an interesting typing. It's a poison dragon type like Dragalge with the moveset of Poison Jab, Fell Stinger, and Sludge Bomb. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at this brand new Ultra Beast in the Great League. Hopping into the first match, hitting Water Gun Lantern versus Wigglytuff. When trying to team build around something like NAGANADEL, it's a very difficult Pokemon to cover for its weaknesses. The offensive combination of Poison plus Bug honestly has very poor coverage into the meta, so you're going to need something that has a lot of neutral play, and that's why I picked Water Gun Lantern. I know Shield, I call the Icy Wind bait, and even though I'm debuffed, I'm going to be able to make it to a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is not going to be enough to KO here, but it will get the opponent low enough that hopefully I can snipe with a Poison Jab, and they will get KO'd. What are they going to send in? They send in for Alligator, and as we see right off the bat, these Shadow Claws are adding up. Granted, I have a very poor rank NAGANADEL, but still, this is not a particularly bulky Pokemon. I go for the Fell Stinger, opponent unfamiliar with the moveset ends up committing a shield, and now boosted, things could get interesting. I'm just going to go for the double shield farm down here, and hope that whatever's in back, I can hit with a boosted Sludge Bomb. I do get the farm down in the back. It's a Poliwrath, and we are off to the races. Let's see the damage. Boosted Sludge Bomb nearly picks up the one-hit KO on the Poliwrath. It's a simultaneous KO, but with a Goodra alive in the back, I'm able to take the win. Moving to the next match, picking up an okay lead, Water Gun Lantern into Mandibuzz, opponent safe switches into Lickitung. I try and go for a Power Whip catch onto Goodra, but unfortunately I am unsuccessful. This team as a whole is very, very weak to Lickitung, so Lickitung, anytime I see it, is going to be a difficult Pokemon to beat. They're going to fire off another Body Slam. I can withstand this damage, and I'm just going to look to farm up. Unfortunately, I'm unable to make double Aqua Tail there, so I'm just going to settle for the Power Whip. The Power Whip plus the Dragon Breath is barely enough to KO the Lickitung. They send back in the Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz will get a Snarl of Energy. I'm going to wait the timer here because the clocks are misaligned, and then I can send back in the Lantern. Lantern firing off the Thunderbolt. This will do significant damage to the Mandibuzz. Thunderbolt will connect. Mandibuzz staying in this matchup, and that works out great for me. They haven't revealed their third, but so far I have the alignment that I'm looking for. They land the Dark Pulse in the back. It's Whiscash, and everything goes wrong in a blink of an eye. As I mentioned, it's very hard to team build around a Pokemon with the weaknesses and coverage of NAGANADEL. If you compare it to something like Dragalge, which at the very least has Dragon-type attacks are extremely potent offensively. They can hit most types, whereas Poison and Bug don't really hit many types for neutral or even super effective damage, so it puts you in a very awkward position. And now, I need to try and Poison Jab down a Whiscash. If I can Poison Jab down, I'm in a good spot, and I'm going to be firing off the Fell Stinger. This is going to be close. Fell Stinger is going to ramp up my attack. Come on, please. Get this farm down, NAGANADEL. I commit the shield as they go for the Mud Bomb. Do we get the farm down? No, the Whiscash on 1 HP makes it to the Mud Bomb, knocks out NAGANADEL, and unfortunately, we do lose the game. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Lantern versus Shadow Gligar. This is way better with Water Gun. My opponent is going to make it to the dig, and I have a choice to make. I decide to call the bait. I get hit with the nuke. In comes Mandibuzz, and I'm going to fire off the Thunderbolt. Not an ideal start to the match. I was expecting Gligar to bait because that's one way they can get an advantage, but they full send. I now send in the Goodra because Goodra does have a lot more bulk than NAGANADEL. They go for the Dark Pulse. Goodra can at the very least tank 2 Dark Pulses, but since I am running an attack-weighted Goodra specifically to help out versus certain spreads of Lickitung, that means that I'm not going to take the Dark Pulses as well as a Goodra would typically take them. I am going to fire off what could be a potential Draco Meteor, but the opponent is not going to respect it. I do make a second Aqua Tail, however, getting the damage registration error, which does give me a little bit of chip damage, and now I can send in the Poison Dragon, NAGANADEL. They fire off the Dark Pulse, I will commit the shield, and I'm going to look for the farm down. Unfortunately, the Gligar is still around, and that Gligar still has quite a bit of HP. In comes the Gligar. Gligar farming up, but I do get a catch, catching the Aerial Ace onto the Water Gun Lantern. Aerial Ace barely does not KO, and I get a little bit of extra Water Gun damage. Back in comes Naganadel. I'm firing off the Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb is resisted, but it will KO. Opponent commits the shield, and suddenly I'm seeing potential to win this match. I'm going to commit the shield. They go for the Aerial Ace in the back. They're running some spice. They have Greninja, and that's something I can one-shot with the Sludge Bomb. Greninja is very frail. Without any shield, it's getting KO'd, and Naganadel able to make it to the Fell Stinger. It took a Pokemon basically as glassy as Naganadel for Naganadel to take a win, but you know what? We take that 100%. Decent lead in the next match. Lantern with Water Gun going up against Charjabug. I catch onto the Goodra. Maybe I could have stayed in here, but I did want to check and see if they had any counters to Dragon types in the back. They're going to stay in, go for the X-Scissor. 2 X-Scissors don't KO. However, it's a bit of an awkward Volt Switch farm down, so instead they're just going to send in Mandibuzz. I farm up quite a bit of energy, firing off my move at the last second, and the Aqua Tail will not be shielded by the Mandibuzz. Back in comes the Lantern. I'm not going to be able to Water Gun them into Thunderbolt range before they make 2 Dark Pulses, so I will have to take quite a lot of damage onto the Lantern, but I was able to bait out the bulky Mandibuzz, and then I have to trust in Naganadel to try and sweep in this endgame. The Water Gun's not going to be enough to KO there. I'm going to try and get them low and then snipe with a Poison Jab. So I'm going to get them low, the switch into Naganadel, but unfortunately I do take the Snarl damage. Snarl doesn't do a lot of damage, but with a Pokemon with the stats of Naganadel, unfortunately, every little bit of HP helps, and mine only gets to 1466 CP since we only have access to 1. In the back, it's Lantern, and I'm going for the bait. Even if they no-shield this, I just need to start ramping up the Poison Jab damage. They will actually call the bait, which is a nice call, and now I'm going to go for the bait as I make it to the Sludge Bomb on charge attack priority. The Fell Stinger does get shielded. Naganadel now 2 stages boosted. Let's see these Poison Jabs. This is a whole new ball game now. Look at the Poison Jabs absolutely tearing through Lantern. I will fire off another Fell Stinger bait. Opponent calls the bait. They have the move, so I get the catch onto the Lantern. And this game does look winnable. I just have to get a farm down here, but the sparks are adding up. This is where having a poor rank Naganadel is going to cost me, as I don't think I can live this Volt Switch. If the encounter had given me a better rank Naganadel, that could have been a win because I could have lived the Volt Switch, but unfortunately, I'm stuck with a 15-10-13, and that's going to be a loss. Positive lead in the next match, leading Water Gun Lantern versus Azumarill. Whether it's Water Gun or Spark, Azu's not going to have a good time, so they're going to save switch out of here into Sableye, and this makes me think that it could definitely be Azumarill Double Ghost. And in that case, then if it's going to be something like Trevenant, I have pretty decent play with Naganadel. If it's going to be Skeledirge, then my Naganadel is completely walled, and I'm in quite a bit of trouble. So that's why I do decide to save the Lantern, just in case it is going to be that Skeledirge in the back, because then the Water Gun damage will be very, very helpful there. So I am going to be able to get that farm down. In comes the Azumarill, and the question will be, am I able to make it to 2 Power Whips? A second Power Whip would do quite a lot of damage. Goodra, this is going to be really close. Goodra does get to the Power Whip. The bubble that sneaks is going to be able to knock me out, but I'm able to grab a shield from the Azumarill. I'm going to send in the Lantern, and it's not the Skeledirge, it's going to be Trevenant. And Trevenant, before they can fire off a move, will be met with the Fell Stinger. Fell Stinger, of course, does almost no damage, but it will boost up the damage from Naganadel. At this health range, they can just go straight Seed Bomb. I know it's double resisted, but that's how glassy this thing is. I'm forced to fire off this Fell Stinger on charge attack priority, as the Seed Bomb would KO from here. And now, in comes the Azumarill. The Poison Jab's adding up, so they're forced to fire off their energy. And from here, I should just be in a winning position because I can send in the Lantern and make it to the Thunderbolt. And we're going to notice a bit of a common theme here is the games that are won, it's not really Naganadel carrying the team. It's definitely more so the other two putting in a massive amount of work, or potentially getting Naganadel into an energy and shield advantage situation so it's actually able to put in some work. Next match, Lantern versus the Vigoroth. Vigoroth will fire off the Body Slam. Unfortunately, the game state during these battles was also very, very rough. Like, there was a lot of lag. I ended up having to restart my phone multiple times. I send in the Goodra, and I'm actually able to get the snipe there, which is quite nice as they lose energy. In comes Tentacruel. Tentacruel farming up. I'm going to be able to make the Power Whip before they're able to make a move. And Power Whip will hit for some very solid neutral damage. We see the shield from the Tentacruel. Tentacruel continuing to farm. And since they're over-farming so much, I'm just going to get some chip damage with the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is resisted, but at this point, I just want damage so I can potentially Poison Jab it down with Naganadel later on. They're going to full send a Blizzard. My goodness, that damage. I send in NAGANADEL. My opponent is barely able to hang on and make the last second Scald. Scald is about 50%, so I will commit the shield. I get debuffed, and that's bad. I'm forced to switch out, and I send in the Water Gun Lantern. Can I make the Thunderbolt? No, I cannot, and I'm forced to fire off the Surf. They always have to no shield here because if they shield, I can just Sludge Bomb, and this is going to set up a farm down potential for NAGANADEL. I'm boosting up my attack here with the Fell Stinger. These Dragon Breaths are going to shred through NAGANADEL, but NAGANADEL on 1 HP makes the Fell Stinger. This is going to be able to pick up the KO, and they do still have a Pokemon left in the back. The Tentacruel survived on 1 HP, and the game ends in a tie. Tough lead in the next match, Water Gun Lantern versus Mudshot Greedent. Typically, Mudshot Greedent will run Trailblaze. You know what? Let's catch the Trailblaze. Let's catch the Trailblaze onto our Goodra. Opponent now going to send in a Azumarill. Definitely not what I was hoping to bait out here. As of course, if I had it on NAGANADEL, NAGANADEL could put in a ton of work. So definitely not ideal. This is not the Pokemon that I was hoping to see when I save switch the Goodra. Goodra can still put in some okay work. Like the Power Whip is going to connect and do some very nice damage. They are going to be able to get a farm down, which is a bit uncomfortable there. But realistically, I would have rather had my NAGANADEL see that Pokemon later on. They can fire off the Play Rough. That damage is very okay by me. I'm just going to let that through and then look to overfarm. I can't Water Gun down, which is unfortunate. Water Gunning down there would have been really nice, as I could have exited with a ton of energy to threaten the Greedent. They're going to send back in the Greedent. I'm going to be firing off the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is going to be no-shielded by the Greedent. I'm expecting that they're just going to go straight Body Slam here, because they're worried about a potential catch, and if I'm running one Dragon, I could be running another. So they are just going to go for the Body Slam. I make to the Surf. That's quite nice. This Surf can threaten the Greedent. Greedent lets it go in the back. It's Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff hitting for super... Sorry, I'm hitting it for super effective. They're hitting for neutral. But look at the damage disparity here. They're hitting for neutral. I'm hitting for super effective. And I get charmed down. Oh my goodness. This Pokemon was an absolute headache to run. Oh my goodness. Water Gun Lantern into Vigoroth in the next match, a very familiar lead. Vigoroth firing off the Body Slam, and I'm not going to shield here. I know that NAGANADEL is probably going to need every shield I have, and honestly, probably even more than that with how frail this Pokemon is. Thunderbolt will be shielded. Opponent throws right away, and this is actually very helpful for me. Had they overfarmed quite a bit more, it would have been a lot less comfortable to just send in the Goodra. So, in my view, a bit of a misplay by the opponent, but you know what? I'm very okay with that. They go for the Body Slam. They're going to send in Skeledirge. Skeledirge will be met with the Aqua Tail. This does not KO from this range, but it does quite a lot of damage. They're going to shield up the Skeledirge. Skeledirge able to outpace, and they're going to be able to grab that shield back. I'm going to commit the shield. I could have let it go and sent in the Lantern, but the Lantern is very, very low. I didn't want to risk getting incinerated down and then having no way to damage the Skeledirge, so I'm just going to fire off the Aqua Tail. Unfortunately, the Aqua Tail barely did not KO, so the Incinerate ends up registering, and that means that they can counter me down. I'm going to send in Lantern just to force him to throw, and then I just have to hope that with Skeledirge out of the way, NAGANADEL's pretty poor offensive coverage can put in some work, and it's a Trevenant in the back. And that's something that NAGANADEL can hit for at least neutral. So I'm up a shield and going up against something with a grass subtyping. And that's really the unfortunate thing is we've seen from Dragalge that this typing has a lot of potential. But unfortunately, giving it poison and bug moves, the offensive coverage is absolutely horrible. Picking up an okay lead in the next match, Lantern versus Shadow Magnezone. I'm going to save switch into Goodra. My opponent is going to bank a Wild Charge plus a Mirror Shot and then send in Gligar. I definitely could have stayed in as the Lantern. I think the better play probably would have been to fire off a Surf to force a shield and then switch into Goodra, so that way my opponent's on the back foot to start the match, whereas now we're still at shield parity. I do exit with an Aqua Tail, which is very nice. If they send in the Magnezone, they're going to be forced to go for Charge Attack priority with the Mirror Shot. Instead, they're going to send in Cresselia, and this actually feels like it can be a winnable game. Because Cresselia, if they're on Grass Knot and Moonblast, Moonblast will only hit for neutral. I'm just going to go for the Fell Stinger as it will hit for super effective damage, and I can get to this move before they can make it to their nuke move. And so as long as they don't have Future Sight, I should be okay. So I am going to let this through, and they do have Future Sight. Oh, okay. Yeah, that is unfortunately game over there. They can fire off the Grass Knot. I'm still thinking maybe there's a chance, because Shadow Magnezone is very frail, right? So if I'm able to overfarm quite significantly here, knock out the Cresselia, maybe I can Water Gun down this Magnezone. The Magnezone did take some damage earlier. The Magnezone, I'm going to be able to get it deep into the red, but not low enough, and unfortunately we do lose the game. All in all, NAGANADEL, in my view, is one of the coolest Pokemon designs they have released in the game. Like, from a design perspective, it's incredible, but as far as Go Battle League, it leaves a lot lacking. The Poison Dragon typing, we've seen it executed well with Pokemon like Dragalge, but giving it that offensive coverage of Poison and Bug, there's going to be so many situations when you're just completely walled and there's nothing you can do. So this is not a Pokemon that I would recommend building. You can definitely hold on to it, even as a Poipole. Like, you can even walk it and then not press, and then catch the Dragon types, and then just not press the Evolve button until it gets a better moveset in the future. But currently, right now, it just really goes to show that Poison is a tough typing to use overall. You really need good coverage with it. Like for something like a Tentacruel having access to that water coverage that can hit a lot of those typings that Poison really can't do anything against. Whereas Bug is not, unfortunately, helping Poison with his offensive coverage whatsoever. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.